A few hours ago, Republican lawmakers met behind closed doors with candidates for the vacant House Speaker position, a speakership search that's become urgent amid what's happening in Israel. Of course, this happened after a handful of Republicans led the ouster of Kevin McCarthy from the leadership post last week, and all the Democrats joined in voting him out. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan, who was endorsed by former President Trump, both threw their hats in the ring, but neither seemed to have enough support. And there's been talk of maybe bringing back Kevin McCarthy because they need a speaker. But tonight, he's now saying this.
I expect there to be a vote and elect a new speaker this week. I asked them in there. I know a lot of them want to nominate me. I told them, please do not nominate me.
But who knows exactly what that means? Interim House Speaker Patrick McHenry told CNN he plans to elect a new speaker by the end of the week. Remember, we also face another potential government shutdown if a spending bill isn't passed by November 17th, which is basically what cost Kevin McCarthy his speakership, and could also mean that our troops are working without pay. McCarthy's removal was spearheaded by Congressman Matt Gaetz, backed by 7 other Republicans in the entire House Democratic caucus. Some Republicans, including John Duarte and Mike Lawler, who we spoke to last night, want to reinstate McCarthy. And on Monday, McCarthy certainly seemed open to it.
Look, whatever the conference wants, I will do. I think we need to be strong. I think we need to be united. The 8, in my view, don't look to be, it was a personal thing. It wasn't about where we were going.
The House votes tomorrow, but as of now, can't approve emergency aid even to Israel. Joining us now, Mick Mulvaney, former Republican congressman from South Carolina and NewsNation political contributor. All right, Mick, so McCarthy now saying that he doesn't really want it, et cetera, but is that for real?
Well, what he said, Dan, is that he doesn't want to be nominated. That doesn't mean he doesn't want the job. Look, I think the real question here is whether or not the Republicans are going to be able to agree amongst themselves behind closed doors as to who the next speaker is, or are they going to take this fight to the floor and do it in public? I sort of get the impression that the interim speaker, Patrick McHenry from North Carolina, the speaker pro tem, would love to do it behind closed doors and not air the dirty laundry. I just don't see any Republican getting the necessary votes from just Republicans right now, which means that either they move the date of the election or they take this to the floor for at least a couple of votes and end up with no speaker and more public humiliation for the Republican Party. I think everybody wishes this problem would go away, but no one sees it actually going away anytime soon.
Trump didn't end up going to Capitol Hill today. Why?
Yeah, because I think he pretty much figured out that Jim Jordan doesn't have the votes. And I'd be voting for Jim Jordan. He's a friend of mine. He's a former member of the Freedom Caucus. I've known Jim since I arrived in Congress in 2011. We're very close. But I don't think he has the votes. I just think Jim is too right-wing for some folks in the party. And the fact that Trump endorsed him probably cost him votes amongst moderates. Donald Trump does not want to show up to endorse somebody who can't win because that way it looks bad for Donald Trump. So that's what I think happened. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know this to have happened, but it would not surprise me if Jordan told the president, please don't come because it only hurts my chances. But I just don't think Jim Jordan has the votes. And I think someone finally convinced Donald Trump of that as well.
Will the events in Israel put pressure on Republicans to come up with somebody? I mean, is it possible, you mentioned that they don't have the votes at this point, but there were only 8 who voted against McCarthy. Is it possible that someone's able to say, you know, guys, look, this is going to look really bad if we don't get someone immediately?
From a practical standpoint, Dan, it shouldn't make any difference. The only thing the House probably could be voting on now for the next several days, maybe even weeks, would be some resolution of support for Israel, which is important from an international sort of PR campaign, but it's not where the rubber meets the road. They wouldn't have to be voting on additional spending for Israel, additional cooperation with Israel for probably several weeks in the best case scenarios. From a practical standpoint, there shouldn't be any pressure. But from a perception standpoint, yes, you're absolutely right. There will be pressure on them because it just looks bad to be talking about the fact that Republicans don't have a speaker in the House when we're dealing with one of our strongest allies being under attack overseas. So yes, I think at the end of the day, there will be pressure. In my mind, it makes it more likely that Kevin McCarthy either returns as speaker or Patrick McHenry extends his position from interim speaker into sort of a more permanent job, just because there's going to be pressure to do something quickly, and I don't think Scalise or Jordan solves that problem for the Republicans.
Real quick, who do you think wins?
The smart money right now would be on Kevin McCarthy and Patrick McHenry, or none of the above, not Jim Jordan, not Steve Scalise.
That's not a bet. Come on. The smart money is on one of two and not the, come on. I mean, what kind of answer is that?
If I had to guess, and everybody's guessing, so what is it
Right.
would be that Kevin McCarthy is the most likely next Speaker of the House.
All right, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. You don't have to be right. Mick Mulvaney, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.